So let's now render new workouts in the sidebar of our user interface. And so what I mean with rendering is to basically create a list item like this for each workout. All right. So each workout here contains this like short description containing the type of the workout and then the date. And actually that's also exactly what we get here in the pop-up. And then of course we have all the relevant data of the workout in case. And so let's now go back and do that. And here we are still in the new workout method. And so down here is where we're going to render the workout. However, just like before, we are actually going to create a new method, which is going to be called render workout. And here I'm seeing that I forgot the underscore, like this. And so now let's create render workout. And so this function will also take in an object of a workout. All right. And so here, all we have to do now is to call this method. So render workout, and then pass in the workout. And so with this, we delegated this functionality to this method. And so let's now start working on it. And so what we're going to do here is basically some DOM manipulation. So we're going to create some markup, so basically some HTML, and then we will insert that into the DOM whenever there is a new workout. And so let's actually get the code right here from the HTML, and I already have it here commented out. So let's actually go up a little bit more. So you see that we actually have a UL, which stands for unordered list, called workout. Then in there, the first child is actually a form. Okay, and only after that, we then start adding these list items with the class of workout. Now the first one here is a workout for running, and then the second one is a workout for cycling. All right. So let's basically take what both of them have in common, which is basically this first part here, which is the distance in kilometers and also the duration. So these are the same, but then on running, here we have the pace in minutes per kilometer, while here we have kilometers per hour, which is the speed. And here, of course, we have the elevation gain, which has this emoji here, while here we have the steps per minute. And so let's start by taking the HTML here that is common to both workouts. And then after that, we will implement this remaining part of both running and cycling. So I'm copying it. And so then here, let's create const HTML. And then, as always, we are going to use a template literal for this, because they are really amazing. They're really actually perfect for doing this kind of stuff. Okay, so this indentation looks about right. Now, of course, it would work just the same as it was before, but this then looks a bit nicer because it follows the natural structure of HTML. Okay, and now all we have to do is to replace everything here with the real data. And let's start with the easy parts. So this one here is, of course, the distance. And so that's at workout.distance. And then down here we have workout duration. .duration. Then up here we actually also have the ID. And so here we once again have this custom data attribute, which in this case I called data ID. And remember that we use data properties like this one to usually build a bridge between the user interface and the data that we have in our application. And so in a future video, this one here will become very important. But for now, let's simply add the ID here, just like before. So workout.id. Then next up, here we need to specify whether the workout is a running or a cycling workout, because it's this class here that will then give the list item that green or that orange border. So remember, that is stored at workout.name. Then here we have this emoji here, which is for running, but for cycling we have this other one. So this guy on a bicycle. And I hope that you can see these emojis just as well as I can here in the video, because I know that I think on some systems this doesn't really work. But in that case, that's of course no problem. It doesn't really matter if you can see the emoji or not. But anyway, what I'm going to do here is to use the ternary operator to check whether the runner here should be displayed or the cycler. So that's easy. Workout.name, and then we just need to test if it is running. So if it is, then we want basically this to be the output, and otherwise this cycler. And here I need to close that, and that's actually it. So one more time, the ternary operator is super important. So as you see, we are still using the fundamentals that we learned right in the very, very first section. So I said back then that they were important, and indeed they were. Now finally, here we have basically this description of the workout, and it is composed of the workout name essentially, and then also the date, but nicely formatted. And the way that we're going to generate this description is by adding a new method on the workout, which will then create a description like this one immediately when the workout gets actually generated. Okay, so as I was just saying, here in the workout, I will create set description. And so this is where we now need this array that I gave you in the beginning with this month. So I didn't feel like writing it all out, and so here it is. And by the way, I have this comment here, which is something that we can use to tell Prettier, so that Prettier extension that we are using to format our code. So this comment here we can use whenever we want to tell Prettier to ignore the next line. So let me see what happens if I take this out. So then you see I have everything here line by line, and I don't like that. And so this is much nicer in this case. Okay. But anyway, let's now set the description. So this dot description. So the description will be based on the name of the activity. And actually, I don't mean name, I mean type here. And I believe that down there I used name instead of type. So let's check that. And yeah, so for some reason I used name. Hopefully you didn't get too confused by that. So of course that is workout.type and not .name. So it's the type that can be either running or cycling. All right. And so that's what we will use now here to create the description. So a new template literal. And then here we actually want to make this type here uppercase. So the first letter. And so we can take this dot type, the first character, and then two uppercase. And so this is nothing new. We have done this many times before. And then simply the rest of this type. So slice starting from position 1. So that is the type of the activity in uppercase on. And so now we want basically the month and also the day. So we know already that we have the date of the workout in this dot date, and then we can use get month on that. And so remember that this will be here a number between 0 and 11. And so that's very nice for a 0-based array, because we can now essentially use this number here to retrieve any value out of our month array. So if getMonth returns 0, then month at position 0 is going to be January. And the same is of course true for all the other months. So this one here will give us the month, and then all we need is the day. And so this dot date dot get date. And that should be it. So now whenever a new object is created, then automatically the description should be set. And so here we now need to do, of course, this dot set description. All right. And in fact, it should not be here, but it should be down here in each of the child classes. So why is that, you might be asking? Well, that's because that's the class that contains the type that we need for this calculation. Okay, so we need to cut that from here and actually calculate it in each of these. And of course, this will work perfectly fine because through the scope chain, this constructor method will get access to all the methods of the parent class. And so of course, that includes this one here. And so then as the method is executed here, it will also get access to the type. And so this is the reason why we can use the type here, even though it is not defined in this class, but only in the child class. So again, we could not call this method on a workout object because that doesn't have a type. But that's no problem anyway, because we never actually create new workout objects. All right, but with all that being said, let's now come back here and use this here. So workout.description. So that's the part that is common to both. Now let's get the rest of it. So all of this, but this one is only for running. So let's copy it. And now here after this part, or actually here, we can now say if workout.type equals running, then we want to add something to the HTML. So HTML plus equal, and then this code right here. So give it a save. Then here, let's fix the indentation, or actually it's good like this. Well, actually it isn't. So I'm just using multiple cursors, and yep, that's better. Just do the same thing here. Okay. And so now here, of course, we need to change it to a let variable, because otherwise we will not be able to add anything to that string. And so here, let's now write workout.pace, and then down here, so that's workout.cadence. Now this value here is actually calculated by JavaScript. And so the result of this calculation might be some very weird number. And so let's simply round that to 1 decimal place. So 2 fixed, and with just 1 decimal place. Okay. And now just copying this part. So if it's cycling, then we want to get just this part. So again, this is the common part. This is the one that is different. So again, add on to the already existing HTML string. And then each time the indentation is a bit different. Don't have any idea why that is. But now it is correct. And here, this is probably the speed. And then here it is the elevation gain. So that's, I guess, just called elevation, but I'm not sure. Let's just go back there. So yeah, it's called elevation gain here. We could have just called it elevation because that's how it's called in other parts of the application. But never mind, let's just leave it like this for now. And here this speed is also calculated by JavaScript. So let's round this one as well. And with this, we actually have the HTML generated. Now all we need to do is to insert that HTML into our DOM. So where will we inject this HTML? Well, let's take a look here at the parent element, and that is workouts. However, as I mentioned before, the first child of the workouts is actually this form, and only the second element should then become the first activity. And therefore, we cannot simply attach the new workout element to this UL element, because we could either insert it as a first child or as a last child, but we don't want any of those options. So instead, we will insert it close to this form, but basically insert it as a sibling element. All right. So again, I will take the form, and then that is where I'm going to call the insert adjacent HTML method. So form.insert adjacent HTML. And then here, remember, I have to choose between 4 strings. And so that's these 4 here. And so the one I'm going to choose is after end, because this one will basically add the new element as a sibling element at the end of the form. So we discussed these strings before already, so you can always go back there if necessary. Okay. And with this, I think we should be complete. We already called it up here, right? And so let's now actually try it. So let's just reload here manually. Okay. And now let's just add a simple running. And now we get a problem. So 2 uppercase is not a function. And indeed, it isn't. So it has to be uppercase with the C uppercase. So let's see now. And again, just putting any numbers here. And there it is. So here is our very first workout rendered to the user interface. So that's beautiful, really cool. Let's now try this with cycling as well. And yeah, it does appear here, and also it appears before the one that we had previously. And so that is the effect of choosing the after end string in the insert adjacent HTML method. All right, so that's amazing. But what we need to do next is to then actually hide this form whenever a new input here happens, right? And so let's go do that now. And so we need to go back here to our, well, where is that? Here in the new workout. So here we want to hide the form. And so let's create yet another method, which is going to be called hide form. So I can already copy or actually cut this one here and call the method before I've written it. So that's no problem. So hide map will be the name of this method. And now let's actually create that. And of course, it's not hide map, it's hide form. So let's do it here right after show form. So that makes sense, right? So hide form. So the first thing that we need to do is to empty the inputs. And then we need to add this hidden class back on. All right, so that's add. But as we will see in a second, this is not yet going to be enough. But let's actually see what I mean here. So did you see this animation here that happened in the beginning? Well, we will need to undo that here in a second. So you see that this one here basically did slide up a little bit, right? But that's not what we want. So here in this version of the app, let's see what happens. So as the form appears, everything slides down here. And now watch what happens as I hit enter. So you saw that? Basically, it looked as if that form was replaced with this new activity here. And so to do that, it's not enough to simply add back the hidden class here, because that will then also trigger the animation. So instead, we need to hide the form immediately first. So form.style.display. So we immediately need to set the display to none. But then we will actually have to put it back after the animation had finished. So let's take a look here at the form style actually, so I can show you what I mean. Okay, so this is the transition that I mean, and it is because of this one that the hidden class has that animation of sliding. So that's this transform here. All right. So this animation happens over 1 second, and the original value of the display property is grid. And so what we will do now is to basically after 1 second set this display back to grid. So that's kind of a dirty trick here, but in order to build the layout like this is what we have to do. And it's also a good time to bring back our set timeout function. And remember that all that set timeout does is to call a certain callback function after a certain time. So let's use a simple arrow function here to make it really simple. So form.style.display should be set to grid, and this should happen after 1 second. So 1000 milliseconds. And so, yeah, let's see now. All right, so again, you saw that animation happening there. But now let's see if we get our desired result. And yes, there it is. So indeed, we did now immediately hide the form, and then after 1 second, we brought back the original display property. And so all that's really left to do is to basically add the same description that we have here to this pop-up. And we will also add a nice emoji, so this running guy for running, and then cycling, as you see here, for the cycling workouts. Okay, and this code we can actually get from here. So from render workout, we already have this. So where is the marker? Here it is. So here is where we set the content. And so again, a template literal. All right, so this is how we set the emoji, and then all we need now is the description of the workout. .description, and that should be it. All right, so that works beautifully. And now just for cycling. And yes. So here's the cycling emoji, here's the description, and so this now works exactly as it does in our demo. Great. So we are almost finished actually with our application. So let's take a look at our flowchart here. And so what we're missing now is to move the map to the workout location whenever we click on one of the workouts that we just created. And so that's going to be the topic of the next video.